day, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us, our SheSays Amsterdam event. We're talking about next generation conscious consumerism and what that means for legacy brands. My name is Kerry Finch and I'm the founding partner at Future Factor. We're a communications consultancy and we help our clients shape and sustain a leadership position. Now, my side hustle is that I founded SheSays Amsterdam. Now, that's a global organization. It's award-winning. There are about 50 chapters around the world. What's the point? Well, we offer training, workshops, support, advice, mentorship, and jolly good fun, networking, all the good things for women. Why? In order to see more women at the top, both in business and also in their personal lives. So please join us on social. SheSays AMS on Insta or SheSays Amsterdam on Facebook. Join the conversation. Everybody's welcome to our events, but only those folks who see themselves as women, who identify as women, are invited to the stage. That's how it works. But everybody is welcome in real life or indeed through the power of Zoom as we are now. Now, a little bit about how this works. Through your Zoom screens, you'll be able to ask questions. There is a Q&A button. Please do use it. Don't wait to the end because we want to have some interaction. And I know that our speakers today would be delighted to interact with you and answer as many questions that we actually have time for. So, as I said, we're talking today about what it means to be a consumer during a time of climate crisis and what brands can do to help and to be the best kind of brands that they really can be. And we have today 3 powerhouse speakers with us, 1 in the studio here with me and 2 through the power of Zoom. Today joining me I have Stephanie Jordan. Welcome. Stephanie is the co-founder of Avallen Spirits, frankly my favourite spirit. It's a delicious Calvados, fantastic on its own, or indeed as I drink it, mixed with ice and a slice of apple and lots of ice and love. And it's a gorgeous Calvados. And the brand is carbon positive. And I think it's the only and very first carbon positive brand that there is. And through the power of Zoom, welcome, please, Dennison van Rooyen, who is the Global Marketing Director for Philips. Good day to you. Thank you for joining us. And Dennison is a consumer marketing expert focused on storytelling as well as brand building. And she's also leading the communications on sustainability at Philips. And also with us, we have Roberta Bosu, who is a global project lead for Avery Dennison Labels and Packaging Materials Europe. Now, Roberta actually studied her degree, her master's degree in gender and climate change. So I know that she will have a lot to say about the subject today. And these days, what she does is she's running strategy for sustainability and communications at Avery Dennison. And what she focuses on is linking both the company goals to sustainability development goals. Please welcome all 3 of them. If we can cut to the chase, and let's start with you, Steph. I know that there's been a lot of research done, certainly recently, and it's focused on sustainability and Gen Z. And it seems that Gen Z and also Gen Alpha, they have, because they're digital natives, they're spending more and more on food than any other product category, and they prefer value-led brands. How does that affect Avallen? What does that mean to a brand such as yourselves, which is carbon positive as it is?
So I think what's really exciting is that Avallen exists because of this in a certain extent. When we look at Gen Z and beyond, you know, when you're raised in this digital era, and we talk about conscientious consumerism, which is a bit of a contradiction in itself, but it's one of transparency. It's one where we're sick and tired of being lied to by, whether it be corporates or governments or fossil fuel companies and car companies and so on. And so when experiences at the heart and soul of community and ultimately what these citizens are looking out for. It's very much more about access versus acquisition. And so with that, food and drink is the heart and soul of how we connect as humans. And so I think there is a real understanding, especially with the global climate emergency, about the impact of our choices, especially around food and drink. And so consequently, to drink and eat well and to negate our impact, it is important to start to source out companies and brands that are proactively trying to have a positive impact on the planet.
Deshni, what's your thoughts on that as, you know, as a senior marketer at Philips?
Yeah, so I totally agree with it. I think this younger generation coming in, there is this huge contradiction because they've totally grown up in this digital age, but they are definitely seeking out and consciously seeking out brands that are proactively providing a platform, providing a lens on where they can participate on sustainability and be a part of the story and part of the action that's going on right now around sustainability. I think even though they've grown up in this digital era, they're still looking for these brands to provide a platform and help them become more sustainable and act more sustainably. They're still looking for the help and the support in these kind of brands.
And if I can come to you, Roberta, do you have an opinion on that? I mean, you did, you know, gender studies linked to climate change. What's your opinion on next generation thinking and the impact that they will have on branding and for the future?
I totally agree with Desh and Stephanie. I think connection is the new currency right now. Mm-hmm. So the next generation, it's actually looking for a purpose from companies. Companies must have a purpose, definitely. What is their mission? What are they going? And it's something that the connection that we are looking, because I also include myself, even though I'm not so young, I'm still part of the millennials. We look for a connection with them. So it's not only about the product, but it's also what is this product coming from? What is the story behind this product? And as regards the link to the gender and climate change is something that I wrote my thesis about, just because I was the first one questioning what is the impact of climate change in women. And what I discovered, it's actually that we need to include more women in the decisional process and in the integrating gender perspective in the mitigation and adaptation initiatives. And when we consume and we also produce product, we also have to take into consideration this. So
I think you make a really good point there that more women need to be part of the conversation. As a business owner, Stephanie, what does that mean to you? Do you think that your age, depending on whether you're a millennial or you're a Gen Zer, or the fact that you're a male or a man or a woman, what bears most relevance for you?
So I think personally, Avallen is very much a reflection of, my own journey, my upbringing, but also that of my business partner, who is a male, however, who is someone who is hugely in tune with his feminine energy and fundamentally is an eco-warrior through and through.
Yeah, he really is. He's done a lot of active...
Incredibly and authentically.
Absolutely.
And actually, he has inspired me and
Vice
that
versa.
is the exchange, right? But in terms of the actual conversation of women being central to Avallen, our research, same as what Roberta was saying, actually, when we were looking at global climate change and how to create a brand that would give back more than it took, our initial focus was this 1% for the planet and working to save bees and biodiversity and restoration of habitat. And as we continued going down the journey, it actually came to our attention that even if we reunited all the renewable energy solutions against climate, it would not have such a big impact as educating and raising young girls and women, because they are such an integral part of communities, of agriculture, of key decisions in the household. And so interestingly enough, one of the directions we've given ourselves from now onwards is that our sort of charitable work will be much more in the space of women as well, because they currently are the ones that can help us unlock the solutions that we need.
Just, Deshani, how does that resonate with you and your work at Philips?
Yeah, so I think it really does resonate a lot with me because, to be honest, I work at a company that's totally, obviously, technology-driven and very masculine. So my previous role was in male grooming, so very focused around the male side, male energy, male products, and a very, to say it, but a male-dominant company, you know, all suited up and every day, Monday to Friday, in a suit. And here comes in females who are in trainers, jeans, and a T-shirt, and not only changing the culture in terms of just showing up authentically and who you are, but also just representing the conversation a lot stronger on topics today that were never topics previously, 10 years, 14 years ago, and bringing those topics forward, and like sustainability, and really pushing the agenda, you know, getting this male dominant industry to really listen and to focus and kind of step back a little bit and go, okay, there's a new agenda here, there's a new topic, there's a new audience, there's new players in the game, and we need to relook how we address this. And luckily, I do see a bit of a shift and a bit of an openness towards this topic, and a willingness to kind of investigate more. I wouldn't say we're there.
No, but it's a work in progress, of course. Absolutely. And I think particularly for legacy brands, of course. And now, you know, Philips is a legacy brand, Avery Dennison, a legacy brand. You folks have both been you know, around for decades. Yeah. And so you have a heritage. And often heritage brands have a lot more trouble moving into the 21st century and adapting, you know, great sustainability and development goals, because of course you have to change a steamer ship rather than potentially be Avallen and be a speedy speedboat going through the waters. What does that mean for you, Roberta, and your work at Avery Dennison? How has the different generations impacted the work that you're doing in sustainability and development?
Well, I think sustainability, it's also a new topic right now. So, and when I say new, I talk about 20 years for companies. So it's we've been talking about sustainability since the, I don't know, 80s, but it's only right now that people are just getting used to the word and understanding what circular economy is, what are those fancy words, if I can say that, like greenwashing. So they are more aware of what sustainability is and what is our impact as consumer for that. And so big companies, as you said, maybe it's also different from Avallen. We have to react, be reactive and innovative. We have to invest in innovation, in technology, in sustainability, and also we have to speak the same language. So like one of my projects is actually linking our goals to the Sustainable Development Goals. And that means that we can talk the same language, and the new generation can also understand what are we saying, because that's the difficulty, I think, when big corporates try to speak the young generation language, is that we need not only data and information, but we need the context. Because, for example, if I say this pen has an impact of 10, what does it mean? Nothing, because you don't have a context. So you always have to give people the tools to understand what is actually sustainability means and what are the progresses. So a goal is a goal, but without the context, then it doesn't mean anything.
So, for example, at Avery Dennison, because you make a great point there that, you know, Avery Dennison is a brand that's been working actually in sustainability for many years, for decades. Yeah. It's only now that sustainability and development is potentially catching on, and it's a buzzword that younger generations in particular live and stand and are driven by. How has that changed at Avery Dennison? Can you give us an example of a project that you're working on and how you're making a difference? Because you talk a lot about regeneration.
Yeah, it's more, I think one of the buzzwords was actually circular economy. Mm-hmm. For me, I think more, instead of a circle, I think more as a spiral, because it's something that regenerates.
As a spiral.
Yeah, exactly. Regenerates itself. So it's not that you're only closing the loop, but you're also creating something and giving back, that it's also important, because sustainability, it's not only the environmental side, but there is also the economical side and the social side, that it's giving back to community. And that's something that we are trying to do at Avery Dennison, but I think every company should do. And we can start, as I said before, with the innovation, with the technology. So, for example, we are trying to create our products through the eco-design process. So we design products that are more sustainable than the predecessor, and we work with suppliers that are more sustainable. We also try to just, because in this game, we are not alone. It's I think both Stephanie and Dash can say the same. We need to cooperate, and sometimes we also need to cooperate with our competitors, because it's a problem that we need to address. And just through innovation, like the eco-design project, as I said, but also through aiming high, so with goals that are actually giving back to communities, like social. Some of the targets of the new goals that we have are related to communities, to gender equality.
Yeah.
So it's a 360, like I always say, it's a 360 sustainability plan.
Okay, we have a few questions coming in. I'll come to those in just a minute. Please, audience, please keep them coming. I've got a great one that I'm going to ask in just a moment. But Stephanie, I wanted to just come to you first, because I want to understand what it means to be a climate positive brand.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So ultimately, when we set ourselves the mission of creating what we wanted to be, the world's most planet-positive drinks brand, we obviously started to understand that everything we did had impact. And sort of our initial research showed us that 70% of what we believe to be the environmental impact of a spirits brand was actually the raw material, the agriculture, the thing of which you make it. Cereal, potato, sugarcane, grain, so on and so forth. And so once we started with that vision, we understood that it was very important that we were working with a raw material which was regenerative, which actually would potentially be negating global climate change. And so we found ourselves in the position to launch a Calvados brand, but a Calvados is made from apples, and apples grow on trees, and trees sequester carbon. And so what we were able to do was actually offset our impact of the glass and the labels, all of which we selected with a huge sustainable by design focus, but nevertheless they do have impact, and to be able to offset internally within our life cycle thanks to what we were actually making our product from. And so, you know, back to both the ladies' points, it's so crucial, this thing around language. We're so far ahead to an extent in talking about sustainability, which actually I would say we need to go beyond, and it's being sustainable is no longer good enough. We need to be proactive, and we need to go about this kind of positive impact in all our missions. And so we find ourselves using terms like climate positive, which ultimately is carbon negative, and almost being that little bit too ahead of even where the citizens are and even other corporates are. And so it's a huge machine whereby we must all start to collaborate. We need to create standards. We need to have transparency. We need to have a certification so that we can all be communicating and having the same data points.
You raise a great point about certification, and I know that, you know, both Roberta and Deshni, that, you know, you'll have an opinion on this as well. What do we need out there in order that we can understand, and the next generation can also understand, you know, what is the playing field? How do we judge when a brand is actually being on point and proactive and positive? How do we know what we're doing and what we're looking for? Deshni, Roberta, do you have a point of view on that?
Yeah, I think I'll quickly cover on my side of it. I think, you know, it's great that we have, exactly like Stephanie and Roberta were saying, certification. You know, we use the big words like circular economy, etc., but consumers want you to speak their language, you know, so don't give them the big words because they don't understand it, and they want to understand what it's actually doing to contribute and make life better, make the planet better, and how is it the tangible result. So I think for brands to get that, we really need to stop seeing sustainability as an initiative that will drive sales, and another big launch that's going to really drive the profits, and rather see it as the backdrop of all your innovation coming forward, the backdrop of everything you do, both from a product perspective and a brand perspective, integrate it into your DNA so that it starts talking about who you are as a brand and how you step forward as a brand in the world. And then they understand it, and then they recognize what you're talking about. And yes, we have all the certification and all the documents behind it, but by showing up and showing what we stand for and how this is sustainability is integrated in your DNA, that's what consumers suddenly listen to and pay attention to.
I totally agree.
Thanks for that, Roberta.
Yeah. I think that's the purpose that companies should have as well. And then consumers are not stupid. So they also feel that a company is just achieving or buying or applying a certification just because they have to do, or if they want to do it. So a consumer are actually also the new generations don't mind to pay more if a product is more sustainable, just because they see the passion behind the mission, the product. Yeah. Product is coming from. If there is a super nice documentary, The True Cost, for the fashion industry that really shows where the product is coming from and what is the true cost of a product. And I think that's the power when a company really cares. So it's also showing and then demonstrating, of course, with data and certification that they are doing something. Then they have the purpose, they have the data and the certification, and then consumers can really can just appreciate that.
And Steph, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's a very tricky one because at the end of the day, transparency is key, and you do need to be able to back that up with proof and certification and accreditation. Yeah. And we have been lied to so much. I come from the drinks industry whereby to this day, it is not obligatory in Europe to put the ingredients on your label.
As a drinks brand.
As a drinks brand.
And yet it is within the food industry.
For example. And so some key initiatives in food haven't quite made it to the world of spirits. And yet we boast some of the highest margins in the food and drinks industry. And so, ultimately, I do think that some companies and initiatives like Avallen, which we're a startup, we're sustainable by design, so we can do this, right? It's much easier for us. We don't have to retrofit anything, but we exist also to ignite the conversation for everyone in our industry. We would like to lead by example, and we want to be the brand to shine a bright light for everyone else to follow suit, because our impact is petit.
But it's leading by example, exactly as you say. You raised a point which makes me want to ask a question which we've had from the audience. So thank you for that. Keep them coming. One of the audience asked, how can brands work in conjunction with government to make a difference? Or will they always be at odds? Who would love to leap in there? Stephanie, your thoughts?
Tricky one.
How long do we have?
Short answer for me would be ultimately, it feels to me that the government has put on a lot of responsibility on us as individuals. There are individual purchase consumptions and where we live and the cars we drive, and all these things have tremendous impact. But ultimately, governments still hold the keys, and the decisions they're making are the ones that have the true consequences. So for me, I think companies need to push back accountability on to government, and definitely not the other way around.
And what about you, Deshni, from Philips' perspective?
Yeah, maybe I'm a little bit too far to speak from a Philips perspective, but I think
from a personal perspective then.
Yeah.
You have so much experience around the globe.
I think from a personal perspective, I agree with Stephanie. I think it's our jobs in the companies to push back to the government and to get them to to take accountability and responsibility. I think all the work we do from a brand perspective, it will never make impact if that final door is always slightly ajar and never fully open. We can push as hard as we want to. We just will never have that impact that consumers are demanding from us, and we want to make from a sustainability perspective. So that I do agree with. I think it's a hard and tough agenda, but it's something that we are the ones that can at least start the pushing.
And Roberta, did you have an Avery Dennison perspective?
I agree with Dash, actually, but having a background in diplomacy and NGO cooperation, I'm also on the other side sometimes. So
tell us from the other perspective then, what does it look like?
Because I also, at Avery Dennison, we also have some project with NGOs. So we are also trying to just be more in contact. There is this super nice treaty right now that is coming, is the Global Treaty for Plastics. And it's an initiative that we are starting to just creating kind of a Paris Agreement, but for plastic. So we are in the discussion. And I think it's also our responsibilities as a brand to be part of this discussion. So also to be there and to lead the conversation, and to also show that there is not only the social side. As I said, sustainability is 360. So there is the social side, more linked to the NGOs, but also the economical and more like related to product side, so the business side. So we need to be actors, to be present and main characters as well in this discussion. So it's a cooperation. I mean, I repeat myself, but it's again a cooperation. And I think also, for example, I come from a small village. Well, it's a city. Otherwise, my family would just say, "What?"
we don't want to upset any family members.
Exactly,
it's a city you come
above
from,
all,
Roberta.
if they are Italian. So yeah, it's a city.
Huge city.
In the center of Sardinia. And I always compare, because I live in Amsterdam, like the infrastructure here, it's perfect. Like I can bike everywhere, I can take public transport, and I would love to do the same in my city, in Sardinia, but it's not feasible. So you cannot bike and the public transport is just, the infrastructure doesn't work. So that's how, and I use this metaphor to just say that it's a cooperation. So as a consumer, I would love to bike there, but I can't. So it's both. I need the instruments and the tools to do that, even if I want to achieve that.
Let's take another question from the audience. Thank you. Keep them coming. Someone has asked, how can we create a more holistic approach to branding and sustainability that includes disabled people, and especially disabled BIPOC people, so people of color? How can we make a more inclusive, sustainable world, I think? Yeah. Anybody? Steph?
I'll have a go. I think it starts with, culture is key, which is why certification like B Corp is so important, because it looks at all aspects of business, as well as diversity and policies around hiring employees. But also, if you look at even just something like an Instagram feed of a company, and you look at who they're using to represent and be drinking the products or using the tech, what do they look like? Are they of all colors? Are they of all genders? Are they all, preferences? Are you getting that diversity within that sort of, because ultimately that is the image that you're putting out there. And when you start to show that, you're showing a representation of an inclusive world. So the more we see, the more we'll feel that to be true.
Yeah, there's
really simple things you can do, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's very, very simple. Deshni, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think how you behave as a brand is really a key indicator on your belief system and your brand purpose and what your philosophy is around these topics. Exactly like Stephanie said, simple things like your Instagram feed, all your communication, across, not only sustainability, but everything that you do, how you step forward as a brand, and the voice you use, the tone you use, that all positions you and gives a little bit of visibility as your beliefs and your systems around these topics.
Okay, thanks for that. What I wanted to do, Deshni, is ask a question about the contradictions of the Gen Z basically. Yep. So that's Gen Z, just to be clear, is those folks who are currently 6 to about 24 years old. And we've talked about this ourselves, Deshni, that there's a contradiction in terms of what they want, what they do, their expectations. How does this influence their purchasing decisions, do you think? Talk us through what your point of view is on that.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Kerry. There's a huge contradiction. You know, I see, you know, within the working environment, all these young Gen Zs coming into the working industry with very much a sense of, and this is not at all to offend anyone, but a sense of entitlement, a sense of, you know, I'm doing you a favor by working here, instead of, you know, I'm here to learn, I'm here to really roll up my sleeves, you know, and get into it and learn and contribute. But there's really this sense of entitlement. And then on the other hand, it's the same generation that is putting massive demand on the industry and on brands today in terms of sustainability, and putting the pressure on brands to behave in a certain way and to start contributing to the world that we are living in, and to be more responsible. So that contradiction comes through when they, you know, I feel the sense of responsibility around sustainability and wanting to do good, and, you know, having high morals and high values, and really seeking out the brands and purchasing brands that are sustainable. Yet on the other hand, when they look at themselves and perceive themselves, there's this, you know, sense of entitlement and sense of, I will do what I want to do. I know what I'm doing. You know, let me lead and bring my skills to the table, which sometimes, you know, is still being developed. So I think that's a massive contradiction that I see. And also from a purchasing power perspective, they demand for brands to be sustainable. In today's day and age, I think a lot of these brands are a bit premium, because sustainability still seems to have this premium notion around it. And these and Gen Z tend to still prefer to buy more affordable, more value items and value brands. But sometimes that would be a label that is not a luxury label, for example, but, you know, one that mimics it, or isn't authentic label. So this behavior of I want to see more from others, but I think I'm okay and I deserve, you know, I come with the sense of entitlement. That is quite a hard thing for brands to start understanding and really working around, because it's so different to the generations before.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you. It's a very different perspective.
Exactly.
Roberta or Steph, do you have a point of view on that?
I'd love to say something, because I definitely used to feel that way. I have a younger sister who just kind of hits the threshold, and she would say, well, why would I work for them? They don't value me. They don't appreciate me. And I was just like, but it's your first job. Like, I don't understand. But actually, I've come to learn, and I actually now do sit in agreement with her. And she's taught me this, but ultimately, I ate shit. I was in a grad scheme. It was horrible. I was an intern in an agency in London. Like, I ate shit. And so there's always this expectation, and I'm like, well, you've got to eat shit, you know? And I think we also need to stop being the
official
people.
Work term there, eating shit.
I would like to also, at some point, we've got to stop it, okay?
Yeah.
It's a bad cycle. So I would like to be the one to stop it and say, yeah, do you know what? There weren't the best working conditions. I wasn't very well treated. I had some horrendous things said to me.
Too many hours.
Or just, you know, commentary around being a woman and so on and so forth. And so I do not want to replicate that. And so actually, my sister, she is allowed to be entitled. She should be entitled because she should be respected. She should be valued. She should be appreciated, even if she's starting out. Doesn't matter. All of those things, she is a human being, and those are her basic rights. And so I just think we need to maybe adapt a little. I
think there's adaptability is key. I don't think there's a requirement to bend over and snap the reed. Let's put it that way. Let's move on. Roberta, What are some tools that young people have now that weren't around, let's say, in my youth, that make them better consumers? What's your opinion on that?
Oh, I'm so jealous because they have a lot of... I'm honestly so jealous, even though, I don't know, even compared to 10 years ago, they have a lot of tools. I'm not a great dancer, so I'm not a TikToker. But,
I had you down as TikTok positive.
No, I swear I didn't. I'm too old for that. But I mean, I'm really jealous because they have a lot of information. So they can, Netflix is one of them. They can see a lot of documentaries, but also on TikTok or on Instagram, I follow a lot of profiles that give a lot of advice and reels and information. They can find a lot of, and it can also be a double-edged sword as well, because it's a lot of information that you have to digest, and you really have to be careful and understand, okay, what is right and what is wrong. But there are also some official or more certified, like app for example, the Plastic Soup Foundation. They have a My Little Plastic Footprint app that you can use and understand how you can reduce your plastic footprint, for example. Or there is a Good On You ethical fashion app that where you can check the brands. So I think it's something that I would love to have when I was younger, because it gives you more power when you have to compare, for example, brands, that it's not always easy.
Yeah.
Deshni, thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm nodding ferociously here because I wish I had all this information available to me when I was a lot younger. And I was the youngster running around going, and I was chatting to Roberta about this, like, I want to save the world, I want to save animals, but I had no clue where to start or what to do or what to look for and how to actually do it, And I look at today's Gen Z and the amount of information out there it's insane, And sometimes I think it's too much, because that's how you get so consumed in the story of what is real, what is true, what is, what should I believe?
So sometimes it's difficult to be able to find your way, your route through that. And do you think that consumers are reluctant to make compromises in order to buy more sustainably, more consciously? And if so, what kind of an impact does that have on a brand like Avallen?
Kerry, I think it's really down to sort of tone of voice as well, right? I think about brands like Beyond Meat. Okay, so it's taken a while, but I think a lot of us are there. We understand that there's impact, and actually a vegan burger is delicious, and you can get all the joy from eating it. But that quite a lot of people at times pointing fingers and preaching. And so if I'm going to rock up with Avallen and sort of go, you can't drink that gin anymore, and people, I want all the gin and tonic, come on. Like, people don't want to be told what to do. Yeah. Fact. So you have to lead with emotion. You have to make them feel good about their choices. Have this delicious Avallen and tonic. Not only are you saving bees, but you're reducing global climate change. Like, ultimately, it is that tonality of which we engage people to come on the journey with us. Yeah. And finger pointing will not work.
Yeah. And how does Avery, Dennison or Phillips react to, some people may be really wanting to go down that finger pointing route? How do you work as a business, as a brand?
I think from a Phillips perspective, luckily the finger pointing, it's just too big to even do that, And I think what from our perspective is we're really trying to internally drive the agenda before we even go out. So how I see it is, the marketing people always say are the ones that are reading the tea leaves. They're the ones that have their finger on the pulse and know what's going on in the world, excuse me, especially with consumers and what the trends are. And I feel as a marketeer, the conversation should be led by a marketing person, just because we have that drive and that passion to be able to tell the story in a creative way and not a finger pointing way or a very corporate way. But you have to make it a company's responsibility. Everybody plays a small role in the whole journey, and everybody needs to feel that sense of accountability and responsibility in that whole story. Otherwise, it's just never going to make it out the front door.
I think that's really true. And Avery Dennison, it's a huge multinational, Roberta, 50 or so offices around the world. I think you've got, more than 30,000 employees. How do you take everybody with you?
Yeah, it's not easy. I think it's the key is integrating sustainability in everything that we do. So we communicate. We also we are transparent also with employees. So we say, okay, we are also part of the problem because labels have their impact, even if it's a tiny one. Labels are everywhere, so they have their impact. There is a waste management problem. And we are part of this problem. So transparency is key. And then when you are transparent and you see, okay, we have a problem, we are working on it, and we want to solve this problem, we are doing this and this and this, and the targets are those, then I think you're transparent, you're saying that you're not perfect, and employees just see the effort and they are on board.
Okay. I think we've mentioned the word transparency a few times. It's clearly important to consumers and brands. It's something that we all do need to get on board with. There's another question from the audience. Thank you again. The question is, do you think that companies should factor environmental damage into their profit and loss as a way to encourage them to take sustainability seriously?
Without a doubt.
Yeah, Steph?
100%. Absolutely. I mean, with Avallen, I think we push things a little further. And at a personal level, I know Tim and I, we believe that business should serve the planet. So my answer is very clear, 100%.
And for a brand, a heritage brand such as Philips, how does that take effect? What's your opinion?
I think absolutely we should take it into account. It's the right thing to do. It's the right way to move forward. I'm the comms lady, so I have no idea how they actually take it into account. But I'm sure this is something that it is.
Don't they show you the spreadsheets?
No, nobody does this. They just leave me with the pretty pictures.
I thought you had a finger in every pie, Deshni.
Oh, I wish, Kerry.
And Roberta, what about you? How do things work at Avery Dennison?
Yeah, I'm also a comm lady, so that's...
Again?
No, I don't know. Only fancy design. No, it's. I think it's. I'm seeing also in our team, we care more about the ESG, for example. Reporting is becoming more and more important. It's something that we are trying to be more and more transparent, but also, let's be honest, without publishing a 200 pages report that no one will read. We all been in university and we have to study a lot of things and maybe remember just a few things. So I think it's also reporting is important, but also the communication part is also important here, that you have to make those information more digestible for people so that they can eat this information and understand, but definitely something that we have to do.
And there's another question. Do you think... I wanted to actually ask about COVID. Is there such a thing as a post-COVID consumer, do you think, Steph? How have people changed?
So I think, as I said before, language is really important. So again, we like to say citizens because it gives a sense of responsibility and community and accountability as individuals. We've not been put on this earth to consume. Yeah, we're human beings. We're here to live and to do great things, hopefully. But ultimately, I actually do think it gives a slight advantage to some of the smaller startup or direct-to-consumer brands. We've seen the rise of e-com. We're definitely seeing that consequently people are buying less in physical stores, which is the traditional route to consumer for many of the corporates. And so kind of these agile small online brands or people that are able to get these listing and the kind of, not just the Amazons of the world, there's many fantastic and independent companies in the same space. It's just allowing for positive impact brands to communicate directly with their end citizens and target people as well with their messaging. And I think we may see a slight shift in how we continue to kind of, I don't want to say the word consume, but consume as a global society as a consequence of COVID. And that big word we have there about consciousness, it was always going to happen. It was there. It's you know, we've got key metrics. We know we need to reduce our global emissions in half in the next 9 years. But that's come full throttle. It's in our face, and COVID has actually done that for us.
Are there any other positives coming from, you know, the pandemic? Deshni, your thoughts?
Yeah, I really do believe that the people or citizens have changed at their core since Corona and since COVID. I think maybe I'm overstating it, but I think actually there's a fundamental DNA shift that's happened, or change that's happened in citizens today. I think we've evened out the playing field. I think both Gen Z, Gen Alpha, millennials, grandparents, everyone has kind of come to a playing field of an even space where we've slowed down. We've taken an introspective look at ourselves, at the world, at the people next to us. Really, I feel it's almost COVID has forced us to kind of go, damn, what have I been doing all this time? I've been so selfish for some people. I've been so involved in myself. And actually, there's a world out there. There's other people out there. Community is so important. And for me, I think the positive has been this fundamental shift that's happened in people in how they want to live their lives going forward.
I think that's a great point. And how do you, Roberta or Deshni, as people who are working in-house in brands, how can you help move that shift and help move that needle, you know, from an internal marketing perspective? Well, what are you doing that's helping the changes in the last 18 months take positive effect on your brand? Roberta.
Oh, yeah, I can start. I can go. No, I thought you were just starting. Sorry. No, I think, as Dash said, it was the first time that we saw such a great change in society. So this great change is possible. We've been talking about sustainability for a lot of time, but everyone was just thinking, okay, yeah, it's really difficult to change society. But we saw that it's actually possible. From one day to another, they just closed countries, borders, no travels anymore. I cannot go to the shop anymore. It was just a completely different life from one day to another. And I would love to have the same translation also for sustainability, this change as well. And as regards us, I think also big brands, like I talk for Avery, Dennison, I don't know if it happens to Philips, but I saw also for other companies, we changed also the way that we communicated. There were no events anymore, and webinars. You have a more virtual approach with clients. There are no meetings with clients anymore in person, so you also have to be more communicated to understand their needs, to also teach them. In some countries, it was also just difficult to teach them how to be more technological as well. So I think it was a positive change also for that, like a more innovative.
Thanks for that. And Steph, which brands do you think are seizing the day? Which brands are doing it right? Who are you looking to as role models, or at least as inspiration?
Since the outset with Avallen, it was Patagonia and Tesla. We had them there for two very different reasons. And we're very lucky now to know the team at Patagonia, because there are a lot of them here in Amsterdam as well. Patagonia will literally tell you, don't buy my products. Don't buy them. Go out and vote. Don't buy them. Reuse yours or repair it, you know? And actively seeing brands communicate sort of the anti-consumerism message, I think, is so appealing and applaudable. With Tesla, they're currently looking at how they can actually do less. So they've taken their cars to the absolute most extreme, and now they're testing it to understand, well, do people actually use this function? Yes, no, okay, well, let's remove it, because A, will reduce costs, and B, will reduce impact. And so we did something very similar. Our first iteration of a bottle was slightly different than the second. We went a bit further with the first and realized that actually these two micro things didn't impact as much, and they were impacting the planet negatively, so we removed them.
Right.
Actually save some costs, and we're able to reinvest that into doing some more positive impact work.
And what about you folks, Roberta, Deshne? Which brands are inspiring you? Which brands do you think are really taking a lead right now?
Yeah.
We've mentioned Tesla, we've mentioned Patagonia, of course.
Yeah. For me, I think I absolutely love the brand Oatly. I mean, I look at some of the work they're doing right now, and, you know, they've taken a very serious topic that we've all been struggling for the last few years to really understand it, to master it, to you know, to bring it forward. And they've added a little twist of humor to it. They've made it lighthearted. They've made it fun. You know, they took something that's serious, we were struggling with, and suddenly added the spin on it. That's, you kind of went, oh, we don't have to be taken so seriously. And I love that about them. And also, they're extremely transparent. You know, in their recent report, they actually, you know, openly stated, you know, to consumers, listen, we haven't got this right. You know, we didn't do this properly. We've made some optimal choices. We haven't made the best choices. Some we've done incorrectly. And then asked their consumers to help them, you know, to help them solve it, to help them tell the story. And, you know, some people will say, oh, that's such a marketing twist. But I really do think this brand wants to get it right, but they want to get it right in an honest and authentic way and bring the consumers along with them. So I love that brand. I just think they've really shown that not everything has to be serious in the world.
And Roberta, who do you go to when you're looking for inspiration?
Yeah, they stole my favorite companies as well. So
think of another one.
Exactly.
Who else can we look to? There are more than 3 out there.
Yeah, no, I also, maybe in this, I'm also more similar to the Gen Z. I follow a lot of small companies as well. Like, I think it's also changes start from us. So there are a lot of small companies that are trying to make a change. Like there is, it's called Rifo. It's an Italian company, and they actually regenerate cotton, for example. And they have a look at their Instagram page. They are great, and I love their way of communicating because it's also a storytelling. They tell you from where the product is coming from. So it's also, as you said, Dash, being transparent and saying, okay, yeah, that's a problem. Like Patagonia says, we are part of the problem, or we fucked. Sorry.
That's okay. I don't think there are any Generation Alphas on the call.
Who don't swear.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad my parents don't speak English. So no, I think it's also that the way that we are creating a change. I mean, I can see also in my group of friends, for example, they are making, for some of them, they created a shop and they are selling sustainable products for gifts, so a good gift store, or they are also just trying to be more sustainable in their lifestyle. It's also something that, I mean, starts from us, and that's that's the key, no? It's not just looking at the big companies, but also at the small examples that we can have.
Let's take just another question from the audience. The question is, now that we're seeing some consumers making more conscious decisions to buy fewer products, how can brands message that they need them?
Love it. Great question.
Steph, how would you attack that one?
Well, I mean, ultimately, we need to ask ourselves, you know, how much do we truly need to sell? What is the point? Are we looking for this infinite growth in a finite world? That isn't logical in that sense.
What does success look like?
What does success look like? You know, is the capitalist model failing us? Yes, absolutely. You cannot just keep growing quarter, thus quarter, thus quarter. At the end of the day, the world will finish. It will be over. And there is no planet B, right? So I think it's about also setting your goals as a company, right? There is enough. There is a cap, like a tree. You grow, 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 grow. And you get to a certain height, you establish your roots, and it's about maintaining yourself for 100 years, for 500, for 5,000 in some trees' cases. So I think it's that.
That's a beautiful picture.
Yeah, and you can set yourself a limit.
Yeah, sustain your own limits.
Sustain your growth.
Yeah, that's a really great response. Yeah, thank you for that one. Let's just look quickly for a couple more questions while we've got 5 minutes left. Roberta, as consumers, what should we be looking for above all from brands, do you think? Is it supply chain info? Is it ingredients in the case of a drinks brand or a food brand? Is it certifications? What has the greatest impact? We've had a couple of questions which I'll summarize, which is around greenwashing and how to tell the truth, how to know what's true and what's fiction when it comes to certification, for example. What should we be looking for? I know we asked it earlier, but can you give us a bit more information on that?
Yeah, surprise, surprise. I think the key word is transparency again. Sorry. No, I think it's a tricky question because in an ideal world, we will have just one label and certification that works for everything.
And that's not the case.
That's not the case. They are working on something like that. It's a product environmental footprint for Europe. But I think, the path it's a long way to the top. So certification are key and also information. So you really need to understand and to read what are they talking about. So like there are a lot of certification for research.
People should do the research.
Yeah, but also to read like their sustainability reports, their data, what is about, because a lot of companies, for example, they say that they have recycled content, but they have to mention the percentage, for example. So it's a lot of behind the scene work as a consumer, but it's worth it because then you also realize which companies you can trust and which one no. Because this certification, they are also third party certified. So it's not that I'm certifying myself. So they have their value.
We've just got a few moments left. Let's just answer a quick fire round. You know, we want the audience to take away a piece of advice. What can they do actively today, this week, this month to make them a better consumer? Steph, what's your advice?
As to Roberta's point, yes, if you have the time, do the research. Now, I appreciate time is a luxury. I'll give you an example from the UK. We work with My Green Pod. They are the leading ethical marketplace for brands that do good.
My Green Pod.
They are not named after after a jungle, but they do plant trees for every purchase made. But ultimately, they've done the work for you. So you can trust them as a platform that every single brand that shows up on there is true to its word. So it's also finding, again, that kind of third-party verification, either from influencers or it can be from certifications such as provenance, and there's quite a few out there.
Brilliant. That's a great answer. Deshne, what's your piece of advice? What can people do to make themselves a better consumer?
I think in one sentence, I think if every single person out there could re-look the meaning of the word trash and bring a new angle to it and see how everything that you're throwing out, everything that you are, it probably has 6 more life cycles on it. Just re-look the word trash in your daily life and bring new meaning to it and see what you can reuse, recycle, repurpose in your daily life. I think that for me would be the big advice I would give.
Regenerate, recycle, repurpose. Fantastic. And Roberta, finally from you.
I think just a question. Do I need this? Just ask yourself, do I need this? That I also just ask myself all the time, because it's a lot of times we just buy things because we think we need it, or it's fancy, or it's the fashion of the moment, or we need something, you know? So I often just say to my friends or clients or everyone, just ask the question, do I need this? And you will see that you will change a lot of consuming ideas. Sometimes you just say no 80% of the time.
Brilliant. Ask yourself, do I need this? Regenerate, recycle, repurpose, or go to a platform like My Green Pod that you can trust and do the research. Everybody, we've run out of time. Thank you, the audience, for joining us. We appreciate that you've tuned in. I want to thank Roberta, Desh, and Steph for joining us. Thank you for our host, Pakhuis de Zwijger. It's always a pleasure, never a chore to work with you. And thank you to the SheSays Amsterdam team. You're always working really hard for the sheer joy of helping lift women and other folks up through the ranks in business and in your personal lives. So thank you, everybody. Make good choices. Be curious. Over and out.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.